Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. Pleasure to be with you, and I will be glad to get back to your phone calls and emails on the Radio Northwest Network in a moment, but it's a real pleasure to welcome to the program two wonderful people. I don't know them personally, but they seem like wonderful people to me, who've run productive businesses in the Pacific Northwest for a good long time. They are Kathy Kingen and Jerry Kingen. You might identify them better if I named the restaurant Salty's and Red Robin, because people all over know those businesses. It's good to have you on the program, Kathy and Jerry.
Thanks, Lars.
Sorry, glad to be here.
Well, I want to congratulate both of you, because on Friday you proved that you really can fight City Hall when City Hall lies to you, cheats you, and tries to steal your property to the tune of a $10 million judgment, which I'm sure the city of SeaTac will probably appeal. But congratulations on that win. Kathy, can you tell us how you and Jerry got to this point where the city of SeaTac is being ordered to pay $10 million because they tried to cheat you out of property?
Well, they basically desired our property, which was a very important piece in the city of SeaTac in the 154th Street Station area where the light rail stops right next to SeaTac Airport. And so that property is a valuable transit-oriented development location. And we wanted to be able to build a park and fly there, and worked from beginning in 2004 to apply for the development rights, which it was zoned for that, to build that park and fly. But over a period of about 5 years, the city, made it look like they were going to let us do that, but delayed, and then denied our proposal and changed it, and then basically backed us into the recession, and where we had to carry that property all that time. And we didn't know that the city actually desired to own the property, and never came to us, made an offer, let us know, let's work together and create what they wanted to do. And we tried everything we could to work with them, but they basically ended up taking our property from us, and we didn't even know it was them. That's kind of.
Oh, I want to get into that in a moment. But Jerry, tell me this. The two of you have worked together to build some really great businesses in the Northwest, correct?
Thank you. We have. We've been partners for 33 years.
And you're not exactly unsophisticated when it comes to dealing with business matters. So we can't put this down to, well, these people probably just didn't know what they were doing. You probably had to deal with zoning and permitting issues for a third of a century.
I did a little speech at my daughter's business school, and I said I probably got 13 degrees the hard way in all the elements of business. So I do know quite a bit about a lot of stuff.
For the folks who really want to see transit development and all this, it would sound like what you were proposing to build on a piece of land you owned or controlled was exactly what most of these cities want, a light rail line that ends at a place where you can either park your car or take the light rail out there and then catch a ride to SeaTac Airport and fly wherever you're going. Sounds like exactly what cities want to have happen. Why didn't they want you and Kathy to do this?
Well, Lars, it was a 4.2-acre piece of property, which was going to accommodate a 1,200-car park and fly, around 50,000 feet of retail and housing for up to 300 or 400 people. So it was going to perform multitudes of purposes. And it's right across the street from 154th Light Rail Station, and the view from our property is territorial. Once you get up above 3 stories, and we had an 180-foot height limit as part of the original conditions of the property. We bought it back in 2003, September. So, it was beyond us. It seemed like we were really offering to provide all the things the city was interested in having, but it was us and not them.
Kathy, tell me this. Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, I was just going to say that, some of the facts that came out during the trial were that the city was actually planning their own parking garage just down the street, and they were concerned that it potentially could compete with theirs. And so our parking garage had actually been on the books prior to theirs, and it was going to be the first structured parking. And so that it was really for the city of SeaTac. And so, it was just that plus, there was a desire by the mayor to have housing there and drive up property values. And that was another thing that they wanted to accomplish. And so they set about doing that.
Well, and in fact, I want to get to the piece where they tried to steal you. Well, go circumvent around and come in through the back door and buy your property without you realizing who was buying it. But one thing I wanted to do, when you won this victory last week, the judge in the case, Judge Richard McDermott, was careful to say, look, I'm a referee when I'm a judge. I'm a neutral third party. And he says, I don't know what the jury said, but I listened to the same evidence that they did. And then he said this in court, I also want to make sure there's no mistake on the part of the defendants or the plaintiffs are the Kingans, that the city of SeaTac engaged in a pattern of deception that lasted years. And because of that, the Kingans' damages are not just limited to losing property. The damages spanned a number of years. I can only surmise, based on how I felt listening to the evidence during the course of the trial, the jury was upset with the actions of the city. A government entity owes a duty of honesty and transparency to those people they deal with. It doesn't matter who the people are. It doesn't matter whether they like the people or don't like the people. Governments are in a unique position. This is a Public Disclosure Act. There are all kinds of cases in which the state uniformly says governments have to be open, honest, and straightforward because that's their job. It doesn't matter whether the city of Tukwila or the city of SeaTac or the county of King or the state of Washington, they represent us. The city violated that duty so many times I've lost count, and and I think the judge lost what he said. He said, it's amazing. He said the city obviously had something to hide. Kathy, how did they go about trying to buy your property when they finally went to buy it? Did they walk up to you and say, we've kept you stalled off for a number of years now, we'd like to buy it? Or did they do something different?
The property was actually on the market, so they could have come to our real estate agent and just made us an offer. But that didn't happen. They actually, because we had been having to hold on to this property without the ability to develop it for so long, it became quite onerous, and eventually the property went into default, which we cured with our lenders. But they had an agent the city had an agent that became a phantom buyer, so pretended they were someone else, and they went to our lenders and said, hey, we'll buy the loans, we'll buy the notes, but we need you to get the Kingans to sign over the deeds to the property. And they basically threatened that they would foreclose on us with all kinds of penalties and interest, and really create havoc in our lives if we didn't sign over the deeds to the property. And this whole time we had no idea it was the city. And a city can't do that. They can't foreclose on you. They can't act that way. And so that is how they did it. So basically, it's as if you're a homeowner, you own a home in an area that the city really likes that property, and they don't let you develop what you want to do with the home, and you have to carry the home, and you can't do anything with the home. But then they go to your lenders and buy your loans and say, hey, sign over the notes, sign over the deeds to the house. Because they didn't come to us and say, gee, we're going to condemn your property, because in that you'd have to get fair market value, but you have to have a public use.
Sure.
And they didn't have that. And so anyway, they basically devalued the property over time. And then when it was at a price that worked, they came after it through the back door.
Jerry, let me ask you this. That sounds like mob tactics to me, but was there anybody in the city government who said, we can't do this to people? I mean, and this has to have cost the city a lot of money, you a lot of money. Was anybody on the city council saying, well, we can't treat citizens in our community this way?
We went through a discovery process called FOIA. It took them 3 years to get the documents that they gave us, and they restricted those severely and redacted a lot of the information we wanted to get. And it was the darndest thing. We thought we had people saying we were going to be able to go ahead and do what we wanted to do, but at the end of the day, we didn't. And the city of SeaTac unilaterally approved the actions that they took on December 30th of 2009 because the council had to approve it, as did management have to bring forward how they proposed to do what they did. And they were sitting on a reserve of capital from the SeaTac Airport's expansion and mitigation funds. That money was sitting there, so they didn't have to go to the public and disclose that they needed $11 million to buy our property. Our property at that point in time for tax purposes was valued at $19.4 million. And I think we all know that, gratefully, that most of our properties are undervalued by a bit. So we gladly paid the taxes. I think it's kind of a scheme. But anyway, so that's how that whole thing happened. And they woefully underpaid for the property, disguised their identity. It was not revealed, as I said earlier, until the 30th of January when they finally took our land. So it was pretty repugnant.
Kathy, tell me this. At this point, there will be a decision about whether or not the city of SeaTac appeals, I'm sure. Is the city council going to back up appealing and spending even more public money when it's very clear that they cheated you?
Well, that's yet to be seen. We don't know. The city's not appealed it at this point, so we don't know what is going to happen yet. So time will tell.
Well, congratulations. Sorry, Jerry, go ahead.
One of the things that's interesting is they paid $11 million for the property. The property today is worth about $35 million. So
holy cow.
They could sell that property, put it on the market, sell that property. Urban Land Institute reaffirmed that our plan was the same plan they thought was most appropriate for the property. So they can sell that property and use that money to replenish their $11 million fund, pay for the takings, and still make about a $6 million profit. So it's not going to cost the taxpayers a penny when they handle this thing responsibly.
See, and this is it. I mean, crime seems to pay when it comes to the way the government acts. I wish you both well, and congratulations on the $10 million judgment against the city of SeaTac.
Thank you, Lars.
You bet, and keep it up, because there aren't many people out there who have the resources to fight a fight like that and actually prevail. You're listening to the Lars Larson Show.